The reason why, in my opinion, that you don't see the algae growth up here that you do down here, because this is where your filtered water is being returned. And the overflow is taken down here, so you're based everything on gravity flow. The other drains are all for feature pumps. You've got two on this side, you've got two on the other side, two over here on the west side of the upper bowl, and there's some, I think there's two on the other end of this, just like this one.
That's all for the pump, right?
They all feed the pump, the feature pump.
Right.
But the main recirculation pump, if you shut everything down to maintain recirculation, that's your suction and those are your pressures. Okay? All these nozzles, we ran into this at the very beginning where we were getting a little bit of mold or algae and some residual from the pebble sheen, a little bit of screens inside here, and they clog very easily. So if you've got all your arches shooting into one and one's maybe throttled back a little bit, obviously check your valve. If it's not your valve, shut it off and you unscrew this and the screen's inside that. Pop the screen out, clean it off, put it back
Like
in.
a little black
Yes, sir.
plastic.
Yeah, just kind of look a little crosshatch on it, that's all it is. And it doesn't take much to shut them down and disrupt the flow a little bit. Right. The finished material in here is called pebble sheen. It's got a mixture of plaster, cement, and very fine quartz aggregate. The problem with pebble sheen is, the problem with any pool, if you don't keep the pool properly balanced, primarily your calcium hardness, the water's going to find it somewhere. And it's going to find it in this plaster material. Yeah, it's going to suck calcium hardness from somewhere because water finds a way to try to equalize itself. So I'll go through the chemicals with you, but your calcium hardness needs to be probably between 2 and 400. This is a bromine feed system. The feeder downstairs says bromine right on the top. So I'm not sure what chemical, the bucket you have downstairs, I think says trichlor on it. But make sure when you put chemical in that container downstairs, it's a tablet form bromine. Here comes a tablet form of sticks. You can use either one. What you're probably going to have to do is after I leave, if you're putting trichlor in that feeder, I would imagine that valve is clogged. That trichlor is not made for that feeder. It's a bromine feeder only. So you'd have to shut the two valves off leading to it, take those hoses off and clean everything out real well. Be careful when you take that top off, because the fumes will get you. It will get you quick.
Yeah,
It's very strong. Yeah, so it's probably a good idea to maybe have a respirator, like some kind of a mask down there when you're messing with that chlorinator. Everything drains to gravity on this. So everything goes downhill, goes down towards the pumps in the filter room. When we get down there, I'll show you, at the bottom of each pump, you have a little 3/4 inch ball valve. Okay, so it's been done before, so obviously you've drained it. Well, everything will drain to gravity. This upper bowl, there are 3 4-inch lines that come out lateral at the bottom of that bowl. One of them is plugged. And the reason why we had to do that is because we weren't getting enough pressure up to that upper fountain at the very top. So if you lose pressure up there in the very top, that plug came out. So in the winter, take that plug out and make sure you put it back in the springtime. Another thing that I would recommend is when we were here about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we pulled probably $30, $40 worth of change out of this fountain. That change is going to affect the chemistry of this water. You're only looking at 4,500 gallons. When you've got a couple sacks full of change in here, that metal content is going to affect the calcium hardness, it's going to affect the pH. So it could make the water a little bit acidic. So I'd recommend cleaning this fountain out, every couple of months. Where you'll find most of your change is that in your drains. These I'm sure most of you know, these lids have all got grounding wires to them. So make sure when you lift them up, you don't tug too hard, you'll pull that grounding lug off. But that's where most of the change is sitting.
One of the ongoing issues that everybody seems to be uncertain about is this perpetual wet spot on the west side of the fountain. Is that from spray off from the fountain, or is it possible we've got a leak underground?
Well, I mean, anything's possible. I mean, I don't know if you guys feel you're losing water out of this. I know it's got an automatic fill system on it. In my opinion, there's two ways to check it. One is to turn off the automatic fill and see how much the water drops in a 24-hour period. The other would be to pressure test all the lines. I personally don't feel it's a fractured line, or you'd see a lot more loss of water than you're experiencing. What I did here is I kind of put some basic information down here to help you guys out as much as you can. The total fountain volume is 4,600 gallons. It turns over in about 45 minutes. That means every ounce of water in here goes through the filter and comes back in a 45-minute period. Chemical levels, these are ideal chemical levels for a standard pool. It doesn't matter what size the pool is, but your pH levels 7.4 to 7.6. And what I did to the right is if you want to add, or you want to increase your pH a minimum of 0.2, you have to add 3 ounces of soda ash. If you want to lower it, you add 6 ounces of uric acid. And that's for a 0.2. Total alkalinity, these are your levels. Immediately to the right should be between 80 and 150. If you want to raise it, you add some sodium bicarb. If you want to lower it, you add uric acid. And it gives you, everything's based on 5,000 gallons. And that's pretty much where you guys are at here. Same with free chlorine, 1.0 to 3.0. Nothing you can do to raise and lower that than what you're already doing above. Combined chlorine should always read none. The total dissolved solids. At the very bottom where I highlighted, you're on a bromine system. The reason why I got a 2005 is it's got a bromine, a BR right here. And the instructions, right here on your chlorine feed, at the very bottom, it's got total bromine test. Okay? Your total bromine needs to be between 2.0 and 4.0. Right. So if you want to increase your chlorine levels, you just go through all your pH, total alkalinity, calcium hardness, because there's a residual of bromine to chlorine. I think it's a 2.4 residual. So to raise the bromine levels, your controller downstairs on your little feeder, it's got a little valve on it. So if you're measuring your bromine, let's say your bromine's 1.0, open that valve up a little bit more. It's
Some of the dial on it goes 1 to 8.
correct. Say your bromine's 1.0 and you're set on 2 down there, turn it to a 3, come back a couple hours later after you've had a couple turnovers and test it there. It's a balancing act. Every body of water's got its own personality, so you just got to find what your personality is. Algae control. I added some algae control on here just because you have a little bit of an issue here. I don't know if you guys spray your grass or your shrubs around here with any type of chemical additive to okay. If they can avoid the area next to the fountain, it would definitely help because that really plays havoc on your water. So just kind of a heads up. Green algae is very susceptible to chemical treatment. Superchlorinate with 10 to 20 parts per million chlorine in the evening. So I drive your chlorine level up to about 20 parts per million, and that'll get rid of that.
How can you super chlorinate that?
I would add the chlorine by hand.
Okay.
I would get some sodium hypochlorite, which is basically bleach. It's a little bit stronger version of bleach. Any pool company here will have it. I would just keep, I'd get a couple cases of sodium hypochlorite, just keep it handy. Crank this thing up to 20 parts per million, and that'll go away. I do it at least once a week.